I'd like to invite Javaid, the CEO of Transformix. He indeed is into digital transformation, a dear friend, and he will talk about the customers in what intelligence? In the time of intelligence, etc. Please, a warm welcome to Javaid Iqbal.
Everybody? Alright, I've been told I have a booming voice, so I think it should work anyway. So good morning, assalamu alaikum, thank you for being here. It's been a wonderful time. I've been called a lot of things, but never in the same sentence as honored. I don't know if I want to take that as a compliment. So Zafi, good one on that. I typically start off with a little story. Maybe some of you have heard this story. But this is this little one story that changed my life forever. It was November of 2017, 2012. I was with Salesforce at the time, one of the premier customer experience companies in the world. And we had flown in one of our flagship client, Groupon, to San Francisco for an executive briefing center. And in the first coffee break, as I was pouring coffee, a colleague of mine came in laughing, or smiling rather, and said, "Javaid, you would not believe what my 6-year-old daughter Sarah did yesterday." What did she do? He said, "I was sitting in my basement getting ready for the week ahead. And she came and she sat next to me. And she sat quietly for the next 30 seconds. And finally she broke her silence and said, 'Dad, why isn't this TV turning on?' And he said, 'Well, you have to turn it on for it to turn on.' And she said, 'No, it should know I'm here. It should just turn on by itself.'" Now, I don't know what's going through your mind right now, but what started going through my mind that very afternoon, that very night, which I couldn't sleep in, was that this little 6-year-old girl who has never Googled anything, but yet she's entitled for a machine to do what she believes it should do just because she's there. Now that's a very powerful thing. This little girl is going to be an employee of yours very soon. She will be a vendor of yours. And the most scary part, she'll be a customer of yours very soon. And as I look at customer journeys, the way they're built right now for organizations, we have no idea how to innovate for the next generation that's about to hit us. The popular fad is that millennials are going to run this whole thing. Would you guys agree? Everything's done for, oh, by the way, millennials. They're the first generation interacting with the phones, and wow, we are not the natives, they're the natives, and so forth. That's very true. But what you need to factor in is the next generation, which is called Generation Alpha. Alphas are the ones who are born between 2010 and are going to be born by the year 2025. That's the first generation that will be born into AI. That's the first generation that has not done original thinking of their own. Now, what's original thinking? It's a way you have to make decisions on your own. A decision to buy something. A decision to service something. A decision to watch something. There are 2.5 million alphas that are joining the world on a daily basis. This generation is not going to be asking you what your IVR says. This generation is going to have the entitlement that a machine gives them in a way they want to get, at the place they want to get, and at the time they want to get. And if you think millennials are influencers right now, you're in for a very, very super surprise. Because as you build your customer journey, before you build your customer journey, the one question you need to ask yourself is, who is my customer eventually anyways? Am I doing it for somebody sitting out in Southern right now? That's for today. That needs to be innovated for. But then futuristically, what is my end goal? How are we going to take this forward? Do we have a holistic understanding of a journey? If I'm a bank right now, is that a bot talking to me? I think. Can someone mute that, please? If I'm a bank right now, every branch of a bank has a different journey. Try getting a retail card. Get yourself a credit card. And try applying for a car loan after that. You're going to go through the same process again. If you have 4 products with the bank, most banks don't know that you're already a customer because it's all happening in silence. And whether you're in your acquisition process or retention process or growth process, you need to define what that really means to you and your business. And people in this room are the gatekeepers of digitization. I sat 15 pharma CEOs down at IBA last year and asked them one simple question. I said, what does digitization mean to you? About 90% had some semblance of Facebook in their hands. Every time I hear digital anything, it's automatically assumed to be social media. People like to give iceberg examples. We'll stick to that because they're easy. If you look at an iceberg, the area that you see on top is your social media, because that is what is engaging with your customers. But there's this massive piece at the bottom. That's your operations. That's your supply chain. That's your finance. Who's going to automate that? Now, if you look at the 4 quadrants of the types of systems that exist, some CIOs would understand this. If you break it down into the various systems, whether they're systems of engagement, which is what this group does, or a system of record, sometimes they could be the same. Could be systems of innovation, which is where you build your products on, or systems of communication. Now, in many semblance, all of them need to be combined with each other. So if you do not have a holistic customer strategy, before you embark on a complete customer journey, or next generation of your customer journey, take a step back and ask yourself one simple question. That I'm asked to build a whole building. It's a 20-story building. But in the next few years, I'm going to be asked to make that 30 stories and also go sideways, laterally. Do we have the foundations ready to take that forward? Most banks here, pharma companies, many others, struggle with understanding the ROI of a good CRM, an enterprise level CRM. CIOs come to me and say, why do we need a CRM? My data lake or analytics engine, you can easily squeeze that in and you'll get the data you want. My question is, what do you want to use CRM for? Oh, lead management. Pakistan is obsessed with leads. Maybe it's a British thing, I don't know. Leads se aage jahan aur bhi hai. Leads is the beginning part of your customer journey, not even the beginning. And if you see how the three facets of customers, the acquisition, retention, and the growth, in many cases, sales, service, marketing, if you start seeing how they have evolved over time and where they're going, I'm starting to struggle with where marketing ends and sales begins and service begins. Because you're starting to use the same channels for everything. The omni-channel experience of a customer journey, a lot is happening with some semblance of social media. And you guys are hiring the next generation of ninjas that write the best content. You have no right back end of a CRM. If you're not spending $1 million a year on an enterprise grade CRM, you don't know what you're going to go do in the future. And I'm just throwing a number out there. If you're not investing in the right customer tools, your customer is going to leave you and go to somebody who invests in that. And oh, by the way, having a nice, sexy app is a story, but it's a beginning of the story. So understand this operation. Try to figure out how the basic foundational elements that you all are missing out on for this building that you're building needs to be not only constructed but architected. And then on top of that, the conversation of AI becomes important. I was just having a conversation with Amin Saab, State Bank, about cloud. Now during my time at Salesforce, we fought a lot of cloud wars. I remember flying into Seattle to see Boeing, flying on their plane to see them, and having a conversation about security. And they said, our architecture is a lot more secure than yours is. Prove it to us. We had to assemble a team to take them to the data centers and walk them through. And then we had to walk through the federal information system requirements, FISMA, and get them to a minimum moderate level. No moderate and high. Minimum is high, moderate. To get them to become a client. There's a lot that is happening in the ecosystem of technology that needs to be understood. And the products that are being sold these days, Genesis is a fantastic product on AI. You can see very interesting bots starting to come through. Or start asking yourself these questions. Am I going after the next cool, sexy thing? Or am I building it foundationally as well? Because if you employ one of these bots and you have no foundational architecture and the right data, this bot is going to start learning the wrong data. And when it algorithmically learns the wrong data, it will steer you in the wrong direction. I talked about Generation Alpha earlier. Generation Alpha is the first one that is going to grow with the machines. The concept of artificial intelligence has been around since the 1950s. But there was not enough computing power in the world or data to be able to accommodate that whole thing. It took cloud, the elasticity of cloud, to make that happen. It took massive amounts of data to be able to algorithmically write and compute queries around them. So as you holistically think about your customer experience, my message in this case comes from multiple directions.
Your board needs to understand what you're doing. They have absolutely no clue. Your CEO needs to understand that. I asked the CEO once, who's your chief disruption officer? And he said, we've hired a digital guy. And I said, you are the chief disruption officer. He didn't like that very much, because he thought I was piling on more work on his thing, which was taking away from his golf game every morning. Disruptions are happening around you.
And if your customer is not owned by you, it's owned by someone else. I'll give you a small example. A couple of years ago, it was a regular Saturday night, we were sitting with our kids, and my daughter said, I want pizza. Okay, let's order pizza. And kids, they ordered something from Domino's. Now Domino's is one of the most customer-centric brands in the US, actually globally. They're the first ones who came up with the concept of this, you see these things on bikes, they have this box type of thing with a styrofoam inside and keeps the pizza warm. Domino's came up with a very interesting thing as well a couple of years ago.
They came up with a tracker. So if you ordered pizza, you can track what process it is in at the moment. Is it being made? Is it in the oven? Is it being packed? Is it on the way? It guides you. Almost created a mini customer journey for you for that one transaction.
Domino's, who's very good with time typically, did not show up for about an hour 15 minutes. 45 minutes was their typical time. So I tweeted. I said, Domino's, I tagged them. What's the point of this whole tracking business if you cannot show up on time? What happened next shocked me. Before Domino's reached out to me, Pizza Hut reached out to me and said, please, next time order from us. If you're not managing your customer for you, someone else is managing it for you. And you may believe that, oh, in my industry, this doesn't happen. Let me give you another example. Assuming everybody takes Uber Green. Anyone? No. Think of the number of industries that converge to make one green transaction happen. How many parts are moving is the reason why they bought for $3 billion. And Uber's going gunning for $120 billion. There's software in there, there's hardware in there, there's transportation in there, there's telecommunication in there, there's government in there, there's financial services in there. Innovation is starting to happen at intersections.
That intersection is dictating how your customer is looking for some innovation coming out of you. And if you do not build the right strategy for it, you cannot say this is not my industry.
I recently had a conversation with the CEO of TCS, Khalid Saab, wonderful man. I think I'm telling somebody else about this. I said, Khalid Saab, I have to apologize about something. He said, what is that? I said, somebody just did a VCast interview for me. And I use your company name in a very non-favorable way. And he said, what was that? I said, if Kareem is dropping someone off on the way back, they'll pick up a package and drop that off too. What will TCS do?
So he smiled, he said, "You're right. This is a big concern." So someone from outside your industry is working on disrupting you. If you do not believe me, everybody's seen the Nahid store on Main. On top of that is John Ara's office. It's our incubator. Go take a look at the number of industries the kids over there are starting to disrupt. Last 2 days was the Momentum Conference at PC. Some of you were, I think, were there. Amazon, Google, the works were there. And disruption is the next game that is starting to happen. But you guys are at the forefront of disruption because you're the first face of a company. You are the ones who represents the brand, the folks in the customer experience area. And the journeys you're building are a copy-paste from some other industry because, oh, by the way, that's cool. And you have no idea what your customer is, one, thinking, two, expecting from you. So I leave on this note. When I left Salesforce, the whole premise of my company became that I want to go and talk to every board member that I trained, working with IDA, BICG, many others on the corporate governance side, technology. Every CEO has asked me this question, and everyone in the customer experience area. Are you ready to innovate for that sick world? And if you're not, be scared, because she's the least of your concerns. Alphas are coming next. Thank you.